everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 10 of TRIGUN STAMPEDE. Oh, these last two episodes have been maybe my favorite in the season so far, especially last episode. We were talking about this in the Discord with Sunspots, who has been active as a partial moderator, patron in a lot of series. They're watching a lot of shows with me right now, and we were talking about it, but I really like, compared to the OG series, Knives' character. And not to spoil a thing with the OG series, but there is an air of mystery about Knives in the original series, and here it's kind of all out in the open. So from episode 1, you kind of know about Knives, so I really like that this series is giving us the opportunity to expand on his character, to see his motivations, to see the depth of his character, how much he loves Vash, but he just can't grapple with the idea that Vash also likes humanity, and Knives is like, but why them? And it's like, yeah, but I love that about his character, and I really love what this series does with it, and it's very, very exciting. So with that in mind, I'm very curious, because we only have 3 episodes left of this season, what we're going to get out of that. So I'm very curious to see what they're going to do and how they're going to expand on his character and what the final, climax of this season is going to be. Because if we're getting a season 2, I don't think they're going to get rid of Knives necessarily. I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't think Knives is going to be defeated in this season. I think he's going to somehow get away. The question is anybody going to be defeated? Are we going to lose anybody? What's going to happen? I don't know. Livio's still off with Blue Summers, off in the distance, supposedly doing whatever. But I do like Zazi's role in this. I like Zazie being this third party that's kind of like, well, who do I support? You or you? And it's like, well, who do you support? So that's the big question. Is Zazie going to side with humanity, or is Zazie going to side with Knives and the plants? Do the plants even want to side with Knives? That's a very big question, right? There's a lot going on in this series at this point, and I really, really like it. So I'm excited to see what we get this episode. Roberto and Meryl have been captured they were taken to Knives by Zazie, I guess, as a test here, and Wolfwood and Vash are on their way to try to find them, and we're headed to JuLai, and it's crazy. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm really excited. So I'm ready to start off the new year, rounding out this season of TRIGUN Stampede. The manga should be here with me by April, so I can look at that. That'll be fun. But then we'll move on to another series while we wait for season 2 to eventually come out. So I want to give a really quick shout out, starting at the new year, to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon, to thank them for supporting me and these reactions. So a special shout out, speaking of sunspots, to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Anna, to Danger Zone, to Edgar, to Loisa G, to Matthew Palfinier, to Sunspots, as well as to Be Happy, who is another one of our moderators, to Dana, to Eric, to Kiri, to Destiny Marie, as well as Lyndon, as well as Shimoyama, Trails, and Translucent Men. Thank you all so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. As my dog does as well. All of my love. So I'm going to tell my dog to be good and just hang out for a little bit. They're going to have to hold on. I'm going to play with them later. They want me to play with them now, and that's not going to happen, because we got an episode of TRIGUN to watch. So we're going to get my headphones in, get all set and ready to go, and just see what we get. So we're going to start episode 10 of TRIGUN Stampede, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Well, I am pleasantly surprised. This second half of the season, let me tell you, I feel like this isn't spoiling OG TRIGUN, but basically what I've noticed with this series is that it just get a little slow start, and then it's like whoosh, ready for everything. Are you ready, kids? This is really great. I am all about this. I did not think that we were getting Vash in a life or death situation when it's not the penultimate episode yet, but we'll talk about that with next episode and what I think it could be doing. But I really like this. It's definitely taking a twist in its own, and it's really good, and I like it. I've got some spoilery things I want to talk about, but I brought Whiteboard Coon out because there were some things I wanted to talk about in terms of what I think that the series is going to do and is doing with the characters and what it's setting up, because essentially we've got the idea of humanity, which is what this episode is discussing. Humanity, and then we have the plants, right? Which, oh my god, the girl, she is frightful. She is a frightful wench, but she's Knives' clone, so of course she is. You know, it's like his little kid, basically. And then you have the worms, which I love that Zazie represents the worms. Zazie, you know what Zazie reminds me of? Zazie reminds me of the little, the creature in the Lorax. Zazie is the Lorax. That's basically from the Dr. Seuss book that's like, I speak for the trees and for nature, and what are you gonna mess this up? You know, I love that Zazie is basically the Lorax. It's gonna pick itself up by its butt and fly through the air at the very end of this series. I honestly think that Zazie could be a Deus Ex Machina in all of this, because Zazie's kind of our neutral party. They're like, we're basically the representatives of the planet. We are nature itself, and which one of you phonies are gonna like destroy us the least, right? Which one of you are gonna hurt us the least? And I think that's what's interesting about it is, you know, what is gonna benefit the worms more, humanity or the plants? And that's a very good question, because on the surface, it would seem like the plants would harm the planet less, but then it seems like humanity's kind of that double-edged sword, where if we kind of worked out Luita's, methods, it could end up benefiting the planet to the worms' advantage, or it could destroy them. So it's like, what are we going to do? I like that Zazie's kind of like this, I don't know which side to trust, or just kind of a neutral party. I like that a lot. And I like the idea that Zazzie's just been kind of following Wolfwood around. Because at first, I thought Zazie was like either a plant themselves that was a clone, like whatever her name is, we'll get to that. Or that they were a person like the Eye of Michael, where they were like Livio or Wolfwood. But I like the twist with Zazie, that Zazzie's not really even been involved with Knives or anybody else. Knives knows about Zazie. Zazie knows about Knives. The main scientist, Dr. Man, didn't really know about Zazie. But I like the idea that Zazie has just been following Wolfwood around, kind of taunting them, being like, so you're betraying your fellow human, huh? That's interesting. I'm trying to get to know you guys. You guys seem kind of rank, interestingly enough. But what I think is fascinating is that, you know, Luita has a plan, and Luita's plan is to introduce flora to the planet, and that would help make things better. Major pro. The problem, of course, with that, we talked about it last episode, is that it takes time. That's the problem, is that it takes time. And if you're up on a floating spaceship that's self-sufficient thanks to the plants, then you have all the time in the world for that to happen. But the rest of the world's not like that, and not all of humanity is like their ship that is, you know, sustaining itself and not just using up all these resources like it's nothing and then just recreating them, right? So it is like, that's a great idea, but I don't disagree when the doctor says that that's a very idealistic plan, because it really is. It's very, very idealistic, right? It is. So what do we do about that? Let's just go through the episode and we'll cover all manner of sins. But this was a really great episode. I loved this one a lot. There was a lot to like about this episode. So I like that I like the Bluetooth that Vash has. It's giving the radio announcement. I'm curious if there's another voice actor that's playing in that. But JuLai being the ship that has become its own metropolis, I don't know why that didn't dawn on me as even being a possibility, but I love it. I love the design of JuLai. I like the idea that they took the ship that crashed there, that Knives ended up at, and it's just over 150 years become this sprawling metropolis. Now, what's fascinating about that is that opulence, you know, Wolfwood talks about how JuLai we'll put JuLai over here, that JuLai has become this self-sustaining metropolis because it's controlling water, right? It's controlling a water supply, but also it's kind of using the plants, which is, irony of all ironies, right? It's like that's the only way it's been able to flourish. And I love the design of it. I love that it's kind of like this Blade Runner-esque, like if you've ever seen the original Blade Runner, like the Metropolis area, you've got all the billboards, it has this Eastern influence, but then it's very sci-fi and tech and modern, has the big sprawling tower at the top. Love it. Love the design of it. I think it's great. It's wonderful. Absolutely love it. And so then we have Zazie. And Zazzy's like, you humans really like dividing things into groups. And Meryl's like, what of it? I do like the idea that Meryl's just like, well, what do we do about this, Zazie? And they're like, here's what Knives thinks, that you humans aren't capable of using the plants correctly. Which is a fascinating thing, the whole idea of using the plants correctly. And yeah, we've seen that some of the humans do not, but some of them do. And then I like that Zazie thinks, well, in fact, you'll just devour them like you did your previous planet, Earth. So the idea that Knives has put in place is that humanity is only capable of destroying things, which we have seen is not the case. Luita kind of proves that wrong. But Knives is convinced that the majority of humans are no good. They're just going to destroy the planet. It's not going to go well, whatever. And so then I like that Zazzie's like, well, you know about the last run. And that's when Roberto says, well, is that why you're gathering all of the red plants? So that can't happen. And Zazzie's like, well, yeah, that way they're not being wasted. They're not just being obliterated. So which is going to benefit the planet more, humans or plants? And Meryl's like, look, I know we can't keep going the way that we are now and that there are people doing this. And that's when the doctor shows up saying Luita was a geoplant specialist and that he's doing the same thing she is and trying to make the planet better. And Meryl's like, I don't think that's the impression I get. I really like that the doctor has these layers to him. He's not just this mad scientist that we've been that's all we've got to see of him this entire time. Yeah, he's messed up and his methods are not good and Roberto calls him out on it. But I like that he's not just a mad scientist, that even though Roberto calls him crazy, I'm glad that he's not just a crazy doctor. He's not just like the stereotypical mad scientist of, you know, like twiddling his thumbs and twirling his mustache. I like that he genuinely has a reason for what he's doing. And his reason with the doctor, but it's very layered too. It's not so easy, right? He's trying to atone for Knives and what he's done to him, and Vash, which we see the photo that he keeps of him with Knives when he's younger. What's fascinating about that is that we see Knives with his hair grown out, and I'm not exactly sure, like, where was Vash during that original picture? Was that picture taken with Knives? It wasn't when he first found him, because he finds him again when Knives threatens him with a thing. So at one point, Knives and Vash were separated, and whatever Knives saw with the doctor is what has helped shape his perception of humanity being so awful. I think that he originally went with the doctor and they were going to use him like they were the other plants, because Vash has said that he can't be used. He doesn't have any abilities, so he thinks. And so I think that Knives was taken away by the doctor for a brief period of time, figured out how the plants were being used, didn't like it, and that helped foster his beliefs. And then when he met the doctor again, he's like, oh, it's you again. One of those scenarios, right? But his method was not only atoning for Knives, but he wanted to alter humanity to be able to survive on the planet. You know, just play God and stuff. That's all. That's all. No big deal. Just like speed up evolution, because, you know, doing it the natural way is just taking too long. So let's just find an easier way to hurry up and do it, shall we? And Meryl, of course, is like, I'm a-going. I like that Roberto's been drinking this whole time. We kind of see, like, the whole episode he keeps drinking more and more. Like, he's, you know, should have been a bit of foreshadowing. But I understand why he's concerned for Meryl going, because he's like, you're just walking into a death trap following him. But I also understand Meryl being like, we're literally on a death trap now. I'd like some answers. I'd like to give the audience some answers too. So I'm going to go and it's better than just standing here waiting for our deaths. We might as well find some things out. We're reporters after all, remember? And she's like, we have to find out what he's after. And so they go on. And so I like that Zazie says stolen from right under my nose. I like that Zazie's like, hey, they're my audience. I want to talk to them. Quit taking them from me. I want to hear what they have to say. So Zazie has been left on the ship. I think they're going to be a Deus Ex Machina somehow. I feel like Zazie's going to be the one, because I think Zazie doesn't care. Zazie isn't really on Knives' side. They're not really on humanity's side. They're just here to see who wins out. I could see Zazie being a Deus Ex Machina and getting them out of there and being like, I'm curious to see what you're going to do now. So go on, figure it out. I don't know. That could be interesting. So yeah, then we cut back to all these posters of Vash and the wanted posters. Imagine. There's also this Marilyn poster. It said wanted Marilyn. I don't know. This isn't a spoiler, but I don't know who Marilyn is. So I'm very curious about that. It looks like someone's like hair and stuff. Maybe this is something for season 2. Maybe Marilyn was an extra character in the original series that I don't remember. It kind of looks like a woman. I'm very curious. Maybe it's from the movie. I don't remember. But I obviously, now that we've seen all the wanted posters of Vash, it's clear why they immediately recognized him, because the posters are modern and Vash hasn't aged. But again, I do like the third city. I like JuLai. And the third city. Yes, the third city. It was the third carrier ship for the seeds. That all connects now. I like the idea that the cities are the ships that remained, and that's where the most people are populated. And yes, they have a monopoly on water producing plants. Imagine that Vash is totally fine with this, or that Knives is fine with this. It's interesting. But yeah, I do like coming full circle that we see the soldiers, the one soldier whose parents were killed at Genoa Rock, and he's the one that's mad at Vash, and he actually shoots him, and Vash takes it because he's like, yeah, it's my fault. Sorry. Wolfwood was really well done in this episode. I loved his expressions. I loved him being like, oi, oi, officer. Like, come on. Like, Hosoya does an amazing job with Wolfwood in general, but he did a really good job in this episode. And the expressions with him were really well done. But yeah, Vash is just tale as old as time. He just doesn't want to fight back, and he accepts his sins and lets himself get hurt. Although there is an aspect of self-harm. Again, I'm reading Heaven Official's Blessing right now, and Vash and the main character, Shilian, share a very common trait of being very self-harming to save others. And people call them out on it. And what's really shippy is that in Heaven Official's Blessing, the character that could be in a relationship with him, Hua Chong, is like, hey, you should stop doing that. And here, Wolfwood's like, you should stop doing that. And so it's just making the Vashwood ship a lot more shippable in this episode. But I like that Vash like tells him not to attack them, and he just walks away, and Wolfwood of course follows him because Wolfwood's job is to take him to Knives. And I love two things. I love the hesitation of the soldier to walk away at the end chasing after them, because he realized after he shot that Vash didn't attack back and encouraged Wolfwood not to as well. So maybe that will alter his perception of how he thinks Vash, if he thinks Vash is a monster after this. That could change. But I also like the idea that Vash knows that Wolfwood's been leading him to Knives this entire time. At the very end, he's like, because Wolfwood kind of confesses it, he's like, yeah, my job was to babysit you until I got you here. And Vash is like, yeah, no. I love that. I love the idea that Vash has kind of been privy to it the entire time and just hasn't said anything, because he's like, I'm going there anyway. I'm going to go find my brother anyway. So thanks for helping me get here. I like that. I think that was really, really well done. It's great. So yeah, so the doctor tells them that he's been basically trying to augment humanity so that they won't have to be hungry, they won't have to be thirsty, they can survive in these environments. He's like, I wanted it to where they didn't need to either drink or have food. They could withstand the temperature with differentials in the desert and to create a new breed of humanity. My thing is, dear God, can you clean this operating room up before you show it to your guests? Like, there's blood everywhere, and who knows where that blood's from, but it's like, could you not did you not have any Lysol on hand? You not have any disinfectant? You could just wash that down? That's pretty grotesque, right? You're supposed to be a doctor, sir. What are you doing? And then he talks about all the ones that he's gave names to, the Punisher. I like that Meryl calls him the Undertaker. He too is my creation. That part always irks me too a little bit, because even though the Doctor, we're getting more layers with him and we're seeing that he's a more complicated person than just a mad scientist, the idea that you created these people, I'm like, no, Wolfwood already existed. You just gave him abilities. You didn't create him. Like, again, it's that idea of playing God, and you can't quite do that, right? I like we cut to Wolfwood, he's like, hanging around you's gonna get me killed. And Vash is like, not my problem. He's like, I'm the one getting shot here, not you. And he's like, you get so fragile up against humans. And Vash is like, well, you didn't kill him. I didn't want you to kill them. And then he's like, you've been shot. What are you going to do? And I love this moment. I didn't realize that up until this moment, Wolfwood hadn't seen all of his scars. And then he sees that, yeah, he's been shot, stabbed, had like his muscle exposed, all of this over and over again. And he's like, oh, how embarrassing. And just the look on Wolfwood's face, because Wolfwood is essentially, not immortal, but he can regenerate himself. So all of the scars that Wolfwood has, that he would have if you could see him be hurt, they're not visible because he's been able to like regenerate that part of his body. Vash hasn't been able to regenerate. He heals up enough to keep going. And the fact that Wolfwood can see it kind of like Wolfwood can empathize and understand what Vash is going through, and that Vash is, basically the price he pays to save people. And Vash is like, yeah. He's like, it's not hard to imagine how they've treated an aberration like you. And Vash pulls out the bullet. He's like, I don't know why you want to help humans so much. How do you even put up with them? And Vash is like, it's just part of me. My body moves before I can think. And he's like, I can't abandon anyone who's in a tight spot. And he's like, and that includes you. And I love that. I love Vash is like, he's like, I can't abandon you either. And I just, the shipping, my Vashwood ship odometer is going off the rails. I just love how they do it here. And he's like, so you figured me out. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I can't abandon you. I know what you're doing. And I know why you've been following me. So here we are. I love it. I love just that little mutual acknowledgement. Did you think sacrificing yourself will make everyone happy? I love Wolfwood saying that, because he's like, I'm not happy that you're sacrificing yourself. So then we go back to the Doctor, and he's talking about how all the people that were used for these experiments were dying or in poverty. He's like, I saved lives and gave purpose to ordinary folk who had nothing. And I'm like, yeah, maybe in your view, but I love that Roberto counters it. Roberto's like, no, you took orphans and people that were sick and toyed with them like they were just, like they had no purpose until you found them. He's like, we know from seeing Livio and Wolfwood that they had each other, they were happy, and you took that away and made that something ugly and horrible. So, why is Roberto like the best character in this episode and then he dies? It's like the show was like, here, we're going to redeem him in your eyes, and then we're going to take him away. And you're like, wait, no, I just got to where I liked him in this episode, and now you killed him off? How dare you, show? How dare you? Everybody's been like, you've been giving Roberto a hard time. And I have been. And now I'm like, dude, he actually does something really cool, and he's a great character, and he says some good things, and then they kill him off. Oh my God. And he's like, well, I did tinker with them, but they still hungered and thirsted. They were all failures. And I like that Meryl's like, because I don't think Wolfwood's a failure. I don't think Livio's a failure. Gale wasn't a failure. It's like that you just created them, quote unquote, and then left them. He wants to create something like Knives that is this independent plant that is humanoid and incredibly strong. And then we go back to Knives playing that damn piano in his little cocoon cloak. I don't know why he has this cocoon cloak on other than it's to protect him, or like to store up his energy. I don't know why he has the little cocoon bulbous cloak, but he does. And then we have this big old tree of life in the background here with all the apples and stuff on it. Not looking symbolic at all. Not Garden of Eden-esque at all. No, sir. No. And you're talking about creating life from knives. Like he's like, it's Adam and Eve. Like, playing God, doing all this. I do love the idea now that all of these statues, it's very Neon Genesis. First of all, there's a lot of Neon Genesis reference in this episode. But I do like that the statues and the stuff over the organ, they are like the fossilized skeletons of the plants that have died. That is so messed up and twisted. And now it makes more sense because with last episode, it's like, what? That's insane. I'm floored. I'm so floored by that. I love it. It's such a great twist. Right? And then we go into this creepy ass lab where he's like, so if we cannot patch people together, we'll just alter them before they're born. And I'm like, oh no, what is this cloning station? And Meryl's like, oh shit, what else are we getting into? And it's like all of these little, like they got little furry legs and hair and like little elven ears. And what does he say here? He says, with the help from knives and the study of lab-grown clones, OMG. So basically, knives, I'm assuming, has given some of his DNA to create clones of him. But I'm like, what's so messed up about that is that's literally what the humans have been doing. They were creating clones of plants to keep using them. So we're creating these like humanoid-esque just little plants that are supposed to like be like Knives and Vash and live on their own in the world, and that's going to be the future of humanity. How is cloning Knives going to be the future of humanity? And then yeah, there is this, and then from it we created this child, which is her. Yeah. And she is frightful. She's definitely Knives' clone, and she is terrifying. And Meryl's like, what the fudge are you doing? Its power supply is only around that of a supply gate. So the child, neither human nor plant. So yeah, she's this weird cross between humanity and plants, and it's creepy. And she basically, so she can't survive without going back in that little stasis tube every now and then to get replenished or recharged, which is terrifying. And yeah, and she's like, well, these kids are already born. Like these clones already exist, and you've got them in these little stasis tubes. That's a problem. What are you doing? She's like, this is really bad. And he's like, oh, I just want you to understand that this is the future for mankind. And she's like, what, cloning all of us and making us part plant? Like, no, what? It's so weird because I feel like Knives just kind of goes along with the doctor because one, the doctor Knives doesn't have the ability to save the plants, and Knives doesn't have the know-how with the technology like the doctor does. So, and Knives probably thinks, well, these humans that are getting experimented on, they're being made to suffer. So that's fine with Knives, because if humanity's suffering, that's all he cares about as far as that goes. But then, and then if he creates more of the plants, then of course Knives will be happy. But I'm like, this is doing the exact same thing the humans are doing. It's not doing anything different, right? So, and yeah, what arrogance. And so the doctor's like, well, go ahead and kill me and just stop all of this. And I like that Roberto just keeps drinking. He's like, this is all messed up. And he's like, well, if you kill me, you're killing all these possibilities. He's like, it's a lonely job. For the sake of creating a new human race, I would pay any price, even if it must be one of the twins. So they're going to trap Vash here and try to use him. And they're going to try to like break him down and recreate him to be more like Knives. I'm like, that's terrifying. And like Roberto's like, really? He's like, what's more important than how you feel seeing these kids in front of you? Yeah, it's messed up. Oh my God. With their little furry legs and furry feet. What the fudge? And yeah, then Meryl said she pities them. And that's when the girl wakes up and she's like, oh, who are you to pity me? She is frightful and terrifying. And her being like, and of course she has nails. She has nails as her weapon instead of knives, which is hilarious. She's terrifying. And of course she's like Knives' little clone. Of course she is. And then what do they call her? She's like, that's why I hate humans. Oh my God. You only judge by what you can see. Oh, Alindira. Alindira is terrifying. I'm like, Alindira being the little clone that is Knives. Oh my God. Does Alindira have a name? Does it have any meaning? I want to be careful to name meaning. I want to be careful. Though she goes with our noble blood of Alindra is pure blood. It's an elvish name. Yes. Okay. So I was like, Alindira, it's like an elvish name. Okay. That made sense because she looks like a little elf, right? So freaky stuff. And she has the two-tone David Bowie eyes. Great times. I'm like, yeah, this is absolutely insane. I love she put on a dress. She had time to do it. And she's like, I found you. She's just so frightful. And she like plays up the idea that she looks like a little kid to make them like question her. But then I love that Wolfwood comes in and she's just like Punisher. Oh my God. Terrifying. And of course, as soon as Vash and them come in, they go in the elevator and he just smiles as they go down being like, you'll be safe. And she is bonkers because she like immediately starts to like play like the innocent routine like she's hurt herself and she's like saying that he hurt her and everything even though she was trying to kill them. And Wolfwood's like, seriously, you dummy. I like that he just hits her with a gun like, hey, you know you're just putting on an act, right? And she's like, I hate you. And he's like, well, the feeling's mutual, so maybe we'll get along after all. She's like, we're not, just get out of here. Because, again, I like what I like about this moment is that Wolfwood can be normal around her because Vash knows that Wolfwood's bringing him to Knives. He knows that. And he knows that this girl isn't going to harm him because he has to get to Knives. That's the whole point of all of this. So it's like Wolfwood can joke around with her because he knows there's nothing on the line and nothing at risk there. And she's like, just get out of here. And he's like, yeah. And then, of course, Vash is like, are you hurt? I love that Vash just instantly is like, hi, little girl. And she's like a cat. She's like, no. I'm like, does he realize that she's part plant? Does he know that? And she's like, don't touch me, scum. You traitor. You don't even know how much, Lord Knives. And then she realizes that she's said too much. Now, and then she starts crying. And the thing is, she has Knives' DNA in her. So, of course, she probably feels some of what Knives feels. And she's like, you don't know how much Knives likes you and cares about you and needs you. And Vash is like, the fudge? I love that Vash is like, what the fudge? This is all kinds of messed up. And then Wolfwood's like, leave the little creep alone and let's get out of here. But they go up. And then my favorite part of the whole episode was when Roberto shot the nails and the bullets actually hit the nails and he was like, it worked! I was just starting to like Roberto. I was just starting to like him. And then he dies. And I'm like, oh, my heart. I was like, are you kidding? And I actually felt really sad about his death. I was like, damn it. I was really sad about it. And of course, Meryl, he's like, I had too much to drink. And he's like, I wish you'd let me drink more. And I like that he gives her the gun. And he's like, you're going to need to take care of yourself from here on in. I'm leaving it all to you. Like, I feel bad for Meryl because she thinks it's her fault. And he's like, you're in charge from now on. Follow your heart. You can run if you want to. I like that he doesn't tell her to get revenge on him. He doesn't tell her to like go. He says, if you want to run, run. But you do whatever your heart feels like it. That was actually really good. And then he's just like, he says Meryl Strife, like he says her name. Oh. And he says, I was just unlucky. I actually felt bad for Roberto dying, and I've been giving him so much shit this whole time. So sad. And then her there. And then we get her saying that she's sorry, and we get Wolfwood's voiceover as he's talking to Vash. And then Knives. Now, what's interesting is Knives, more and more of his skin is looking like the plant, right? You can see the little details of his body. Like, it looks like he's becoming more and more plant-like outside of the system. What's interesting is he's getting more and more of the runes, like he's becoming more plant-like outside in the open, and Vash isn't like that at all. He seems more human than ever. So what do we do about that? What do we do with that? Interestingly enough. I thought he was also going to let Vash play the piano with him. I really thought Vash was going to come up and sit beside him on the piano. I really was wanting that. I was hoping that would happen. Maybe it'll happen by the end of this season. I don't know. But there's the flask, the cigarettes, and the lighter that she's got beside his body. So then we have, what I like is that the logo on the flask and the logo on all of the wanted posters, it's like the S, but it's kind of like seeds. Like they've altered the seeds logo to be its own thing on this planet. And so then Wolfwood says, not wanting to kill anyone. That's a coward's idealism. Even a kid could tell you that. As like Meryl loads the gun. Folks only get to live because other people die. That's the world that we live in. I don't have the luxury of being afraid to make tough decisions. And she's going up to them, so I don't know what we're getting with that. I like the little detail with the bloodstain on her hand, though. He's like, I have to choose in order to protect the things that are dear to me. So that explains why Wolfwood's like, in order to protect Livio and the kids at the orphanage, I'm doing these things. And we get that juxtaposed with Meryl going upstairs, I'm assuming to protect humanity and Vash and whatever else, what she believes in. And I don't like condoning like taking lives, but I do like the fact that Wolfwood says, you know, you can't have it all. Someone's going to have to suffer for someone else. Like and to coexist, there's give and take, right? Everybody can't just be happy all the time. There has to be some give and take with it too, that Wolfwood's kind of addressing here. And then I'll do anything I have to. So I like Wolfwood and Meryl kind of have this similar mindset at this moment, or it seems to be that way. And he says, as a guide. And Vash is like, oh, you're doing this for the orphanage? And he's like, a load of babysitting this job turned out to be. Dragging someone so eager to die all the way here alive. But it's done now. And I love that he says Wolfwood. And Vash is like, thanks. I feel like Vash is like, I was going to come here anyway. So thanks for getting me here and not killing everybody on the way. And Wolfwood's like, son of a bitch. That's the thing. Vash was going to make it here eventually. And then he goes on. Oh. And Wolfwood turns around to leave. I really wanted Vash to get up there and play the piano with him, but no. And then Knives says, I keep her here as a warning for myself. It's like I keep these corpses around me to keep me hating humanity and to not be fooled by them like you've been fooled by them, Vash. And I like that Vash is like, look, they're not just exploiting us to be mean. It's like he tries to reason and give Knives another opportunity, but Knives is like, no. He's like, nah. The rash of robberies, and Vash tries to call him out on it. He's like, all I'm doing is rescuing our brethren who've been discriminated against and oppressed. Who cares if I oppress people along the way? And he's like, you don't want to save humans. I like that he tries to throw it at Vash, being like, you don't want to save humans because you love them. You just feel guilty. And you're just doing this because you feel like you need to atone for your sins. Meanwhile, we have this contract here. It's like a pastor's thing. Nicholas Wolfwood, June 2nd. SE 110 it says, what does it say here? Receive immortal glory from the priest William. I hereby agree to the terms listed in the above mentioned contract. And it's a special note. If the work is approved, the Shepherd Orphanage and the surrounding area shall be excluded from the, what does it say? Something site. Okay. So William Conrad, Bill Conrad. Okay. So basically they signed in blood that if he agreed to get this contract and if he would do what they wanted him to, then they would spare the orphanage. Fair. Okay. And I like these, like, your contract is complete, take it. And I like that Wolfwood's like, what good is this piece of paper supposed to do? He's like, I'll never forget what you did to me or to Livio. He's like, just keep your word, don't hurt anybody else. I also like the lanterns, the lamp things are like little vines and trees are the lamps. Interesting. And then he says, were you able to lay down your cross? I'm like, what kind of saying is that? How dare? And he's like, well, what about you? He's like, no, I'm not able to lay down my cross because I have another cross to bear now, apparently. And then we see him look back at that photograph. And it's of him with knives as a kid. Oh my God. And then when he finds Nye, and he calls him Nye. Yeah, you survived the crash, the big fall. And he was such a different person back then. Oh my God. And Knives is like, nope. He's like Count Leibniz Vasquez or William Conrad, the researcher. And he's like, you can either join the dead or you can live and atone for all of your sins. And then he chooses to live. The image of Knives with his hair grown out, I want to know more about that one. That's interesting. And then I like that Knives says, no matter how much you try to atone, the humans are always going to call you a monster. They're never going to forgive you. And Vash is like, he's like, I know they make sacrifices, but I want to believe in them. They're trying to get better and move forward. And Knives is like, you're just pathetic. I'm going to put you out of your misery because I don't want to deal with you anymore. And then, yeah, he's been planning this secret trap door under this tree motif for ages. He's been planning this Shakespearean revenge for 100 years. What? And he tries to go up there and Knives grabs it. But I'm like, what is this supposed to be? What are they doing? What? And it's like, I'm going to remake you and to be more like me, the perfect independent. But we know, I don't believe that Knives can last on his own because he looks like, you can see the stuff under him. I think he's more and more plant. Like, I don't know how much longer he can live without that cloak, maybe. Maybe it's keeping him alive. Maybe it's nurturing his plant powers. I don't know. And Vash is like, no, Knives, don't do this. I don't know why he's landing in this water. Are they going to, like, boil him alive and, like, make him be reborn? What are they going to do to him? Are they going to try to open that gate up? What is happening? Why? Ah! So, I want to talk about spoilers for a bit, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to wait to watch the next episode. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. So, yeah, that's fun. So we'll see. In the meantime, if you're not sticking around for spoilers, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of Trigun Stampede. So I figured that Roberto might die in this season, but I didn't think it was going to be this episode. Or on those terms. Like, yeah, Alindra. Alindra is a freaking nightmare. She is terrifying. And I feel bad for her. I'm like, Meryl, I pity her because she was just created by Knives and this doctor. And she's just living in this existence. And she has, like, Knives' DNA in her, which he got a lot of issues. But, oh my God. So I love that Zazie is like a neutral party. Like I said, love that about them. I think they might be a Deus Ex Machina. I honestly like, in comparison to Chapel, because I believe that Bill Conrad is kind of like the Chapel of the OG series. That's who they are in this. I like them in this because of the depth that they get as a character. In the OG series, they kind of just go after Wolfwood, and that's all we get. I'm really interested that we haven't seen anything else from Blue Summers in this season. So I'm wondering if Blue Summers is going to be a villain for season 2. Is Mid-Valley going to come on to here? Because Mid-Valley was one of my favorite of the Gung Ho Gang. Are we going to get to see Mid-Valley and more of the Gung Ho Gang in season 2 if they get out by chance? I don't know. I like that Wolfwood kind of keeps the same mentality that they have in the OG series, carrying it on throughout this. I like that Wolfwood's mentality has been the same. I enjoy that. It's really well done. I tell you what, Roberto won me over this episode, and then in the same episode he dies. But what I thought was really interesting was that when he gives the Derringer to Meryl, all I could think about was Meryl in the OG series having the coat full of guns. And I'm like, are they setting this up to be the start for Meryl's character? That she next season is going to have like a coat full of Derringers in in memory of Roberto? I'm like, is that going to be a thing? Are we going to get Millie next season since Roberto's gone? That would be rather interesting to see, because it seems like Millie with Meryl's character, it seems like a lot of like the innocence of Meryl with Roberto dying kind of dies with him, and Meryl kind of has to grow up in this moment and realize, okay, am I gonna defend my ideals and go back up there? Or am I gonna run away? What am I gonna do? And she makes a choice. I feel like it's hardened her a little bit as a character. So I'm curious to know if she's going to go up there, if from here on in, she's going to be more like her personality from the OG series, who was still a nice person and not jaded necessarily, but she was more like a mature, like, no, this is what's got to happen kind of character. I'm wondering if we will get that with her character moving forward now that Roberto's gone, right? She's going to have to grow up in another way a little bit more. I'm curious if that's going to happen, and then that would be cool if we got Millie in the next season, because Millie in the OG series is always like this bubbly, charismatic, kind-hearted, like, oh my gosh, kind of character. And I would be very curious to see if we got more with that, and we saw her be this bubbly character, and Meryl kind of be like the hardened person, a little bit more like Roberto, being like, well, no, things aren't always like that. And Millie's like, well, you got to keep believing, Miss Meryl. So I wonder if we're going to get more of that. That would be really fun. I would love Millie to come on season 2, and then her and Wolfwood can interact, because I'm hopeful Wolfwood doesn't die this season. I'm rooting for him to stay alive, because I would really like Wolfwood and Millie to have interactions if she shows up in season 2. And we've already lost Roberto. Losing Wolfwood as well would be really sad. And with only 2 episodes left, and what I think is going to happen next episode, I feel like Wolfwood could survive onto season 2, and Vash could try to show him like, oh no, things are not like what you think. And then Blue Summers can tempt him, and then there's all this other stuff happening. There's so much potential they could do, because I just can't see them wrapping up everything in 2 episodes. Especially, I think next episode is going to be like an introspective episode. It's the penultimate episode. I think whatever we're going to get with Vash is going to be like introspective, like how, like if he opens up the gate, that black hole thing that he has, what do we do about that? Is that going to happen? What will our characters do about that? Will it cause this big destruction of JuLai? And where do we go to from there? So could this season end with Vash escaping? And I think what would be interesting is if by the end of this season, Vash and Knives' battle will probably cause a lot of destruction to JuLai, which is going to make people very fearful of Vash again. And if Vash escapes, and Knives escapes, and Vash is like, I gotta go after Knives now that he's escaped, and Meryl and Wolfwood decide to join him, and the next season we get Millie involved. Then we have Legato that could get involved as well. Zazzy's there. We could have the other Gung Ho Gang members. Like, you could do so much. There's so much potential. But I think next episode, Vash in this, like, pot of boiling water or whatever, they're going to try to, like, I guess, boil him down and remake him. How does that work? Brainwash him? How does that work? I'm so curious what they're going to end up doing to him but I think it's going to be like a more introspective episode for the penultimate, and then the finale is going to be like, okay, do we get Vash out of here? What ends up happening to him? What's going on? I don't know. All this stuff. But I love the idea of trying to create more plants, making them humanoid, like Alindira. What's going to happen with her? That's a big question because she's kind of this creation. There's just so much they could do, and I'm very, 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 very curious. So, I don't know. I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. I really, really liked this episode, but I'm very sad Roberto's gone. Tears. I'm a bit worried for Meryl and Wolfwood, especially if Wolfwood sticks around. Is Livio going to show back up this episode? I could see, is Livio going to show back up? Is the doctor going to get saved by him and Blue Summers? Is Zazie just going to fly off and be a worm? I don't know, but I'm curious to find out. So, in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with the penultimate episode of Trigun Stampede. Bye!